Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming in person. And for those of you online, thanks for showing up to take some time to practice, take care of yourselves, move around, get stronger. As always, if you're at home, look around and make sure you're in a really safe space. No books or cords, anything you could slip on, just make sure you're safe where you are. And with that, we'll start on our backs. So we'll start by bending your knees, rolling onto your backs. As always, if lying on your back is really uncomfortable, no, you can always start by sitting down. You could sit on the floor or even sit in a chair. So as you find your shape, just giving yourself a moment, transitioning from what you were doing 5 minutes ago to being right here in this space. We'll start by feeling the ground, the steadiness, the weight, the support of the ground beneath you. And from that steadiness and that support, you might let your body just rest and let go. We spend a lot of our time holding ourselves up against gravity. Might feel nice to let go of some of that and just breathe. Breathing in and out through your nose. Settling with your body breathing. If you're here in person with your mask on, being patient. If you're at home without a mask on, being patient. Let the breath come to you. It's easy for us to want to force or grasp for the breath. As you pay attention to your body breathing, trying to let your breath be as natural and as authentic as you comfortably can. And we'll take 3 more breaths. And following your next exhale, if it's comfortable for you, bringing your hands onto your lower ribs. So you can just soften your hands and let your hands rest there and feel the movement of your rib cage as you breathe in and out. As you inhale, feeling how the breath is spacious and wide out into the side ribs. And as you exhale, how the ribs draw together. Sometimes I call this knitting the ribs. As you exhale, the ribs drawing closer together. breathing where your lungs are. So your hands are down on the lower ribs and also the lower lungs. Now we want to add tone to the lower abdominals. So if we go a little farther south from the bottom of the ribs to the pelvic crest to those big hip bones, and then to the center of your navel. When you exhale, can you feel how your navel releases down towards the ground? And as you exhale and your navel releases down to the ground, you might feel a sense of tone, almost like a deep hug. Now, this deep hug feeling is different than a squeeze. So it's not necessarily a squeeze like we're trying to put on a really tight pair of pants. See if you can feel that deep hug, that tone feeling. And as you understand that feeling of tone, can you maintain that feeling of tone with your inhale? So you could feel the residue of your breathing without a lot of physical movement. And we'll practice feeling this, trying to understand this in our own language for 5 more breaths. And when you think or feel it's been about 5 breaths, we're going to bring your hands down onto the top of your thigh bones. And if it's comfortable for you, take the palms down into your hip creases. So you could find your pelvic crest, that big bony notch in the front hip, and go into the hip crease if that feels comfortable for you. And then your palms land on your thigh bones. I'm going to pick the legs up and keep them bent and just let your knees come up over your hips. So sometimes, not for all of us, but sometimes for many of us, when we pick up the knees, it gets really tight right there. That just gripped for me. So if that gripped for you a little bit, you might draw your knees in just a little bit more towards your chest. And then we're going to bend and straighten the legs. Maybe work with your ankles and heels, pointing and flexing. And just spending a little bit of time noticing what you feel in the front of your hips there. So when we think about using our core, one of the biggest benefits of using our core, the more we use the core, the less we have to use these hip flexor muscles to do so much for us. So ultimately, we're going to try and back off of this tension and tightness in the hip by strengthening the abdominal muscles, strengthening our upper back muscles. And I would throw in there strengthening your hamstrings, back of the legs, and your glutes, your butt and deep hip muscles. So next time you straighten your legs a little bit, pause. Straighten your legs just to the point you can hold your legs up comfortably without any back pain or tension. And see if you can come back to feeling the breath in your lung area, nice and wide out into the lateral ribs. And that tone again in your lower belly. And that tone in your lower back. If you start to get really tight in your front hips, where your pants are bunched up, bend your knees and maybe even bring your feet to the floor. I'm going to take 3 more full exhales, stretching through the back of the legs, tone and strong through your lower abdominals, breath up in your lungs. With your next exhale, bend your knees. Keep your knees up over your hips and bring your arms straight up towards the ceiling. Bending your elbows. Look at your elbows and try not to have super wingy elbows. So imagine you have a block between your elbows and you're squeezing that block. Exhale, arms and legs, stretch up towards the ceiling. Inhale, bend. Working right here, 4 more, follow your breathing. So use your breath as a cue. On your 5th one, when your arms and legs are straight-ish, pause. Noticing the tone and strength behind your navel. Noticing the breath up around your ribs and your lungs. And then checking in. This should not be cramping or causing back pain. If it does, adjust as needed. Like we just did earlier, put your legs in just the right shape. You can hold your legs there for a little bit. And bring your awareness to your low back and the back of your rib cage. Letting your exhale draw the lower back ribs into the ground. Stretching your arms overhead. Now, as you stretch your arms overhead, try really hard to keep your back ribs down on the floor. Try to keep your belly knitting a little more with your spine. Stretching your arms out of your heels, just the right challenge for you. You have to back off a little bit because you get tight in the shoulders or the hips. Take advantage of feeling that tension and then backing off. 3 breaths. And then exhale, all the limbs come up. Bending the knees, arms come back down. Let all the limbs come to the floor. Come back to that feeling of stability and support from the floor. 3 authentic breaths. Just try and let your body breathe for you. And you feel your next exhale, taking your arms up towards the ceiling. Drawing your awareness to the back of the rib cage. You can't see the back of the rib cage, so there's a little bit of trust there, right? Like, I can feel the back of my rib cage, and it's nice and anchored, supported by the floor. So we're going to try and keep the spine just in this shape. So notice the shape of your spine with the back ribs on the floor. And then spread the arms really wide like a T, taking them out towards the floor, and pause right before your arms touch the floor. Did you grip in your butt or your hip creases? Notice and try and let go of that. Did you grip in your eyes or your throat or your chest? Notice. Nothing wrong if you did. You're not doing it wrong if you did that. We're just learning patterns. We're learning how our bodies move, understanding a little more. Reach out and then exhale, bring your arms back up towards the ceiling. And then following your breath, inhale, going wide and low. Exhale, coming back up. 3 more breaths. And then one more time, just let your arms float right before the floor. And then as you stretch your arms out from your chest, you might notice your arms extend out from your core, defining your core as that rectangle. So if you start at your shoulders and go down through your ribs into your pelvis, notice how your arms can plug into your back. The back of your arm connecting into the back shoulder blade area. You might feel this a little more in your armpit. Then we're going to rotate the arms at the sockets. You're going to roll your whole arm so it faces down, palm down to the floor. And then you're going to rotate the whole arm from the socket so the palm faces up. And you might rotate externally just a little more, thumb to floor, pinky finger to ceiling. You could do this symmetrical, or you might roll one arm externally, one arm internally, your choice. We'll spend just a little bit of time rotating arms in sockets, going slow. Keep breathing. We'll do 2 more rotations. And then you'll face your palms back up towards the ceiling. Now check back in. I noticed in my own body, I really started to tense up in my hip flexors and I started to kind of squeeze my butt more than I needed to. So what can you learn from hanging out here for a couple more breaths? Where do you have more of that natural grip? I'm also gripping in my shoulders quite a bit, so I'm going to bend my elbows a little bit. And then when you feel your exhale, let your exhale float your arms up towards the ceiling. And then you'll inhale, bring your arms down to the side. And we'll take 3 breaths. And then while you're still lying on your back, figure out how you want to come all the way on up to standing. So you might roll forward, you might roll over to the side. We're going to find our way all the way on up to standing. Come nice and slow. And take a wide stride. So if you're in the room, you might want to take a wide stride to face the lake. It's pretty beautiful that way. Okay. So finding your wide stride, wide legs, equalish weight on your feet. Try and just let your arms feel heavy down by your side. Take a couple breaths, notice what you notice. Feeling your body in space. Ears back in line with shoulders. You might tuck your chin a little bit. Yeah, lengthening the back of your neck. Shoulders stack over your hips. Bringing your hands to the side of your rib cage again, just like we had them on the floor. Let your elbows come a little bit in front of your body. Okay, so if we draw the elbows back, we might press the spine forward. So letting your elbows come forward a little bit, it's going to help you knit the ribs. Feel how the ribs exhale down and in, even here when we stand up. When we stand up, it's easier to feel that tone navel to spine. So we could feel the ribs stacking a little more up over the hips as we go up and down 5 times in your wide leg squat sumo pose. So as you go up and down in your sumo pose, working in those hip flexors. So right in the front hip and the pants crease up there. Trying to get a little more movement there. Good. 1 or 2 more. When you come down, build just the right sumo for you. So not too high, not too low. Can you feel your breath out into the lateral ribs again? Breathe. And the tone, navel to spine. 2 breaths. Maybe you go a little lower. Excellent. And then come all the way on up. Bringing your arms out in front of you. Remember being on your back 2 or 3 minutes ago. So remember how the floor supported your spine. Inhale, opening your arms out wide like that T. Exhale, bringing your arms forward. How steady can you be shoulders to hips? How steady can you be in your rectangular core area? Meaning when you open your arms, can you keep your ribs down and in? Not pushing your chest forward to the front of the mat or out into the lake. Next time your arms open, pause. Can you still connect to your breathing, ribs knitting, navel to spine feel? 2 breaths. Exhale, build just the right sumo for you. Hip flexion, knee flexion, bending the knees. Inhale, arms come forward, straightening the legs. Exhale, going down sumo, wide arms. Excellent. 4 more with your breath. Next time your knees are bent in your sumo, your arms are wide, pause. It's really easy here to lose the ribs and push the ribs forward and compress the upper back. So noticing your mid back, trying to feel a little more what you can't see, the back of the ribs. Let the back of the ribs be really wide, shoulder blades on your back. Now you're going to draw your arms up towards the ceiling and straighten your legs. Good. Exhale, bend your knees, pull your arms down. So more like sun salutation arms as you go up and down here. We'll do about 5. Great. Last one. And we'll just come all the way back on up to standing, arms hanging at your side. Stepping your feet together. Standing mountain pose. So an opportunity to come back to feel the ground, to feel your stability. Feel your body breathe for you. 5 breaths. Follow your next exhale and then step your feet wide. So give yourself just a moment again to stack your ears, your shoulders, add your ribs and your hips. Then let your left leg roll in and your right leg roll out. Look down, we want to be about heel to heel. So sometimes when we externally rotate this right leg, if we're tight in this right hip, we might have dropped the right hip and the right shoulder. So feeling your body in space, did your right hip drop? Can you line that right hip up to be a little more in line with your left hip, your left side ribs, and your left and right shoulder a little more stacked? Can you maintain this as you bend and straighten your right knee 3 times? So as you exhale, The leg bends, inhale, straightening. Trying to keep the shoulders, the ribs, and your hips in your awareness. Next time the right knee bends, pause. Come back to your breathing. Lower lung, rib breath. Ribs, abdominals connect. Navel to spine connects. Awesome. Bring your arms out in front of your shoulders. Opening the arms out like warrior two. So right arm over the right thigh bone. Left arm behind you. Good. Now, as you reach your right arm, try not to drop the right shoulder and the right hip. Can you pull back through the left arm, giving the left side just a little more awareness and weight? Good. With your exhale, bring your arms out in front of you again. Straighten your right leg. Inhale, bend, warrior two. Exhale, pull and straighten. Inhale, warrior two. Good. Two more. Next time you land in your warrior two shape, pause. If having your arms up and out's a little too much, bring them to your hips, feeling, connecting feet to the ground, your body in space, ears, stacking back, shoulders, stacking over ribs, ribs over hips. Softening through your face and your chest. 2 breaths. Exhale fully, straightening your right leg, hands to your hips. Right leg rolls in, left leg rolls out, going over to the other side. Ears, shoulders, ribs, hips. Can you maintain that awareness as you bend and straighten your left knee 3 times? It's really easy when you bend your left knee to tip over like my little teapot. It's going to require more tone down in those lower left abdominals, more freedom in your hip to keep this pelvic crest lifted. Next time the left knee's bent, pause. All right, everyone, look and see where your left knee is in space. For this class, let's try and get your left knee a little more over your middle toe. There we go. Pause. Back to your ribs. Navel to low back, connection and strength. Breath out in the ribs, 3 breaths. Arms can come forward. Inhale and exhale. Move from your breath. Let your breath be the cue. So the arms can open and close. You can bend and straighten the leg. Build your strong warrior two. If having the arms is lifted is too much for your shoulders, simply bend and bring your hands to your hips. Hips in awareness with your ribs, with your shoulders, with your ears. 3 breaths. Straightening your left leg, bringing your hands to your hips. Both feet turning in. We're going to keep a wide stride. Regrounding, so connecting back to the earth. Can you find a little more awareness of equal weight, balls of the feet to the heels? Letting your body breathe for you. 3 breaths right here. finding your hip bones, the front hip bones, the pelvic crest. If you go a little south, you're going to have your hip creases. This is where your pants bunch up. So we're going to take the hip creases and we're going to pull the hip creases back or push the hip creases back if that language works better for you. And you're going to find like a wide leg forward fold table. And you're going to come back on up to standing and do that a couple more times. So your right side, left side hip creases, this is a symmetrical pose. They travel at about the same speed, but we're trying to learn to tip from the hip. So the hip crease goes back and the front of your hip goes forward. Excellent. One more. Okay, now when you come on up, check in with your low back. I get a lot of requests for low back tightness, okay? So if the hamstrings, these muscles back here are really tight, they'll pull the pelvis down this way, pull the pelvis back, so that when you go to fold over in that exercise, puts a lot of tension in the low back. So the quickest way to resolve this is to bend the knees. Just take that pressure out of the hamstring points, okay? So if you have the capacity to bend the knees, you might bend your knees quite a bit, and that might really help you relieve some tension in the low back. So we're going to do this 3 more times. Hips go first, head is last. So you tip from the hip, and then you're going to build your wide leg standing shape. Hands are going to come down onto your thigh bones. So we want to find a really strong connection from the crown of the head all the way through your spine to your tailbone. So navel to low back. How do you feel from your navel to your low back? If you go a little north, lower ribs to middle back. Going a little more north, sternum or breastbone to the back of your heart. Collarbones nice and wide. You might tuck your chin to look down. Holding what we might consider a tabletop shape or a plank, now bend and straighten your knees, keeping your spine in this shape. Less challenging, hands on your thigh bones. More challenging, fingertips come together at your breastbone area. Trying to keep your spine strong, steady, connected, not a lot of rotation, hopefully none. Not a lot of snaking like cat-cow here. Pretty stable. You might bring your shoulders up and change the angle of the chest to the hips. 3 more. Rest when you need to rest. You have total agency over your exercise. Next time your knees are bent, hands come back to the thigh bones. We straighten the legs, step the feet together, hang out. Just let your body come back to breathing for you. You just get to hang out, rest, and breathe. Three more breaths. And when you feel your third exhale, walk towards the back of your mat. Feet will be parallel. Just going to swing your arms forward and go out and in 3 times. So nice and wide, strong, steady spines. Next time your arms are out wide, pause. Notice if you pushed your chest forward. Remember the importance of feeling how the ribs draw down and in, the rib to abdominal connection, the navel to spine, strength connection. Then shift the weight into your heels more and swing your arms up for chair pose. It's going to be a really high chair, so you don't have to drop your butt very low. You just might drop it even a millimeter or an inch and let your arms come a little forward of your ears. Rooting into your heels, lift the shoulder blades up. Feel the back of the ribs lift up, and with your exhale, bend your knees as much as you need to fold forward. Fold from the pelvis first, like we worked on. Let your head hang if that works for your neck. Bend your knees as much as you need to really support and take care of your hamstrings and your low back. With your exhale, walk your hands out to either tabletop or downward facing dog. You pick. Picking one of those two places, maybe you prefer child's pose or coming all the way onto your back. If you're in down dog, like your forward fold, maybe you bend your knees, pushing your hip creases back. Wherever you are, whatever shape you're in, see if you can come back and feel 5 breaths. After 5 breaths, you'll come to tabletop. When you get to tabletop, we have a couple options. Option 1 is walking your hands forward, bringing your elbows down, knitting your ribs. So as you exhale, feel your ribs draw together, feel the space through and across the back ribs, and then push your butt and hips back to puppy pose, which will stretch out your armpits and the shoulders. If that doesn't work for you, you could round your back like a cat. Press back to child's pose. You can always roll onto your back and draw your knees into your chest. So every single person practicing has a place to be to reconnect with their breathing. 5 breaths. And then when you feel it's been 5 breaths, we're going to come all the way back onto your back. Same shape we started in. Might feel different though. So coming onto your back, constructive rest pose. Arms down by your side, palms facing down. Come back to the floor, the ground, the earth supporting you. Seeing here, once again, practicing, focusing on 3 breaths, just 3 breaths. With your next exhale, find your belly button, navel, and push it down into the floor. And feel how that pushed your low back down into the floor. And you can slowly peel your low back up then into a really low bridge. Nice and wide and heavy through the back shoulders. You can feel the back of the upper ribs nice and grounded. Take your knees, let your knees feel long going forward over your toes. So from your pelvic crest, the front hip bones out your knee is long, stretching the front of your hip flexors. 3 breaths. When you're ready, you're going to let your spine come down vertebra by vertebra. Ribs first, low back, hips, and then your tailbone. Check in with your present time experience. How are you feeling? Taking a few moments. And then as you check in here, noticing how you feel, what do you need here? So we take the last few minutes of practice, we take this time for self-care. So how can you use the last few minutes to really help the rest of the day, to maybe even help you feel a little calmer, a little at ease, even into tomorrow? So you might want to use the last few minutes here for meditation. You might want to find some of your favorite stretches. You might want one more bridge. Each one of us taking time to take care of ourselves. We'll take the last few minutes here in silence. Noticing your breath. If you're moving around, can you notice your breath in relationship to the movement? We'll be here for about 5 to 10 more breaths. Noticing whatever it is you're noticing. Just bringing your awareness back to yourself. We're going to finish our practice with gratitude. So give yourself a moment to savor this practice, thinking of 2 or 3 things you're really super duper uber grateful for. Just let those things show up in your mind and then feeling that gratitude as you take a few breaths for each one. And following your next exhale all the way through, we'll draw your knees into your chest and slowly come on up to sitting. Yay. Thanks everyone online. Thanks everyone who showed up. Big high fives. Thanks everyone. We're slowly coming back. So great to see you all.